Good afternoon everyone, it's the 11th of November. The Genesis panels in this vehicle are designed for ease of removal. All the plugs and sockets just disconnect, and I decided, sod it, they're in the way, let's just take it out while I'm working. It also means I can clean up a bit of the mess as well. So today, what have we done? All the cabling that was hanging down here has gone. Big bird's nest in there. Headline is down, and all the chopped off cables that they butchered during the decommissioning stage has come out. Those cables there are a few remaining wires. They're good quality cables. I would suggest I'm going to leave those there because they could be reused in the overhead console for other things. There is actually a harness running all the way down that A-frame. They actually had to chop up where the speaker mounts in the A-frame cover in order to make room for this harness, but this harness has got a load of spare cabling in that connector there which could be reused, but there are also wires. Can they be seen in there? Yeah, there's 4 wires in each door. Not entirely sure why there's 4 wires. There's 2 black ones, an orange one and a red one. I'm pretty sure that at least one of them, or one pair of wires, are for this red high intensity LED strip light here. But I don't know what the other pair are for. The owner did remind me there is a puddle light underneath there, but that looks like the original fitting, so you wouldn't expect to see additional cables. So I'm not entirely sure what these are for yet, but right now I'm not going to try and identify them. Too busy putting everything else to pieces. But at the moment the headline's down. I managed to get it out without any difficulty at all. I've removed all the cabling that was up there. The only wiring that's left now is the cable that went to the nice little LED strip lights that were fitted up here. You can see that plastic tray there. That is obviously was an oddments tray as an original part. And this yellow cross member here, I didn't know, because I've not worked one of these vans before, I didn't know whether this cross member was a bolt-in item or something that could be removed. But it's very definitely welded in, so that isn't going anywhere, and that's really just something for the owner to bear in mind if she's got plans to put things above the cab area. That to me is a structural member and shouldn't come out. Anyway, purpose of today's video is, having removed the 2 Genesis modules just for ease of access, it suddenly dawned on me, this bulkhead, 4 bolts there, nothing on the sides at all, 4 bolts down there that go through the floor into reinforcement plates. As you can see, I've undone them. I'm going to take the bulkhead out. It's going to be easy to do all the work we've got to do in this van, so I think the bulk is going to come out. So I shall now switch to time lapse and let's see what happens. Well, there you go. That was easy, wasn't it? Not. There's quite a lot of work to get to the point where that could come off, but when I realised how easily this was fitted, it was pretty obvious that it would come out in no time at all. So there you go. There is a stripped out Boxer. All the cables there are power, etc. to the Genesis system, but with the bulkhead out of the way, I can now start working on the cabling up here. I'm still stripping out redundant wiring basically, getting it down to its bare bones. I'm only taking out redundant wiring. I'm not concentrating at this moment in time on any work related to rewiring, changing the functionality of the Genesis system as it stands, because the owner's still pondering whether to actually just rip the whole lot out. In all honesty, if we took the entire Genesis system out, I'd have to rewire the power to the suspension compressor, but that needs doing anyway. It's just the way it's done would be different. And she would need to go out and buy a method to charge the auxiliary batteries. And frankly, I think personally that split charge relays and VSRs are simply a waste of time. They're not efficient, they require massive cabling in order to power them properly, otherwise the volt drop is too high to them. They rely totally on the output from the alternator, or the alternator output voltage, to provide a charge to a battery, and if an alternator isn't able to provide a high enough voltage, then the batteries are never going to be fully charged. So in my view, split charges, they only have one purpose that's any good, and that is they can dump in a lot of current into a battery in a very short period of time, if they're very, very flat, but it's only as good as the quality of the wiring. And many people cut corners. Here comes a beagle, still looking for sweets. The other reason for getting the bulkhead out is there's a lot of muck there that I couldn't get. Sam, mustn't touch. Sam! There's a lot of crap down there that the bloody dog keeps eating. Hang on a minute. Out! Out! Mustn't touch. It's horrible, manky, years old chewing gum, sweets and other crap you don't want to eat, because it'll make you into a very sick and unhappy beagle, just like the two corgis are currently sick because we don't know what they've managed to eat. And they've been chucking up all over the place this weekend, haven't they? And we do not want you chucking up as well. So you do not go in here, and I'm going to clean this mess up in a minute. Anyway, back to where we were. What was I on about? I've forgotten now. Oh yeah. My view is split charges, they're just not sensible things to have. A B2B is the way to go. The only advantage of split charge is you get a very, very short period of time where they are capable of providing more current than a B2B. Simply because a B2B, you buy them based on their current output. But there's a lot of negatives you said about split charge. People buy split charge relays that don't have sufficient ratings, they melt, you've got to put massive cabling in, they need large fusing, and you don't get a proper charge. And for most modern vehicles now, and I don't know whether this one's even got a modern alternator, probably hasn't, but for most modern vehicles you can't use a split charge anyway, so I just think B2B is the way to go. And preferably a B2B with a built-in MPPT tracker, because then you've got your solar charge controller at the same time. What I would like to do is get the heater wired up independently. I'm not sure quite where all the harness goes to yet, I need to trace it back, because potentially this weekend, when the owner turns up, we will be attempting to take some of the cladding down. You can see that large bundle of cables there. They're all redundant except for the thicker one, which is actually a very handy bit of cable that goes all the way front to back of the van. Could be used for all sorts of things. But the rest of that stuff's redundant. Plus, obviously, in order to wire this up independent of the Genesis system, all the cabling's got to be presented to different places. So I honestly think a lot of this cladding's got to come off. Probably starting with the cladding on this wall here, because it would be the easiest one to do. And learn from that what the quality of the insulation is like inside this van. And also how hard it's going to be to get this stuff off. I suspect, having looked at it, it's not fiberglass. I had read on the forums that this was fiberglass. Perhaps the Wilka conversions are, but this isn't. This is 10mm thick UPVC. It's fragile. On the ceiling there are so many holes and voids and cutouts and openings that they are weak points, and just trying to get this down in one piece, I don't think it's possible. And we know that the ceiling has to be insulated properly, and we also know that access to the ceiling is required in order to bolt solar panels and everything else. So I can't personally see any way of avoiding taking it all down, which is a shame, because the plastic itself is nice. She may decide to leave it. It would be a lot easier to take this down in warmer weather. It may be more forgiving then, and it may not break, but certainly when I took mine out October last year, I couldn't get any of it down in one piece. But we'll talk about that, and we'll discuss that with the client when she gets here next at the weekend. In the meantime, I've got plenty to keep me busy with the existing wiring, up to a point. I may well get to a point sometime this week where I'm done, as far as I can get, without taking some guidance from the client about how she wants to proceed. He comes again, after some more sweets. Okay, this is interesting. That dirty great big cable there, which I found down the sides of the heater, has just got a plug on it. It's 12 volts and ground, but it's just a plug. It's not connected to anything, it wasn't connected to anything. But that cable runs along that harness there. It goes to that left hand bolt in the centre there for the earth, and it terminates on that white plug. And in the Genesis system, that goes to a 150 amp fuse and is labelled to suspension feed. Well, obviously, it doesn't do bugger all. So the air suspension on this, or at least the main supply for the compressor, I think is wired directly to the chassis battery. I won't know for sure, I'm going to have to follow the cables now. Which means, what does it mean? The Genesis system is probably just doing monitoring, maybe some control over a relay that then charges the compressor. I don't know, I need to do a bit more closely. But it looks to me like, Sam, there's nothing there, I've just cleaned it all up. All that's there now is leftover Coca-Cola, coffee, orange juice and God knows what else. But you're not having it. You notice in the hoover there's a very nice collection of compost. Probably grow some tomatoes in that. That's just what I've hoovered up from there. Yeah, I'm interested now because all the labelling on the control box doesn't seem to match up with what's actually going on. So, bit to investigate, but it does mean that I can now unclip this cable, take it all out, put it to one side. That's one more out of the way. And eventually I'll end up with not very much. That's the plan anyway. So there's the large cable I've just removed, and it's just dawned on me. Well, I think it's dawned on me anyway. I said in an earlier video when I was going over my notes for Genesis that the fuse for the cable with the white connector on that said air suspension didn't have a label on it, so I stuck a temporary label on it, just so I knew what it was. I reckon they took that label off on purpose, because I think this cable was made redundant. And I'm now pretty certain that one of those two black leads coming out the side of the battery there, either that one snaking up there, or that one that disappears under there, that's probably the actual feed for the air suspension. They're both fed by fuses. There's a fuse in the battery box just there, behind that little inline fuse, and there's also on the metal there, you can just see the bolt for the cable. They're both fused. They don't, neither of these cables look normal to me. I don't think they're part of the standard van. They look like they've been added on. I'm not sure what the other one before, but I now feel, time will tell, but I think one of these goes under the floor to the air suspension. Probably the one on the right. I bet that's going down a hole. And that means this cable I've just taken out is redundant. It also means the other end of the connector that's currently in my garage is redundant. And it also means I can deal with the air suspension in a totally different way. But this is a learning curve. I don't have a wiring diagram for this van, so I'm having to work it out as I go along. I may change my mind later on, but for now, gut feeling is air suspension running directly off the chassis battery. Well, my theory for what that orange and black cable was for, I've now disproven. I thought possibly there was a switch in there for detecting when the door is shut, completely shut. That's not the case, and that black wire was actually embedded, it wasn't doing anything at all, it was actually embedded in some of the glue that the bulkhead was actually stuck to the floor with. The orange wire I thought had broken off something. It hasn't. This cable's almost certainly redundant. If it goes somewhere down there, I can't see it. The sliding door itself has got a set of switch contacts on the side of the vehicle here, roughly where just behind that plate there, where it says laptop lanyard. They're covered in grease and oil and muck, and it's probably simple as a case of the fact that contacts are all dirty and grotty. The plate is a bit loose, which is interesting, which means it may have been got at previously, but that's just a standard bit of vehicle electrics to sort out. It's separate from anything I'm doing, so it's on the deal with it eventually list. But yeah, just curious now what this orange and black quiet cable did, and I won't know really until I trace it back to where it actually connects back to. Can't do that at the moment, obviously, because we're still in a situation where most of the cabling disappears up into the ceiling. Can't get to it. Can't follow it. Anyway, I've just taken, as I said, that large thick cable out. Oh, put it in the bin. Put it in the box. I'm now going to take this panel off the side of the wall here, just above the heater. That's the access panel to where the original auto jet connector was. I'm going to extract the mains cable because the mains cable is yellow. It's usable, but it is 110 volt cable. And assuming that the owner's going to use that hole in the van for a mains hookup socket, it needs new cabling anyway. So that's another cable coming out of the way. Then I'm going to start breaking down the wiring to the heater and find out where that all goes to. Some of it's going to go to the Genesis system to initiate it, but most of it will go direct to a fuse box or a set of fuses somewhere.